everyone. Liz Beal Kid here, and Ethan and I are going to be doing Children's Chapel the Sunday before Thanksgiving in this round. And we are going to be talking a little bit about Squanto, who shows us a wonderful example of how to help people. Even people that I'm not sure had exactly won his trust or had really done anything to help out Squanto. The interesting thing about Squanto is, there's lots of interesting things about Squanto, but he was captured as a slave by a horrible man who had sold him into slavery in Spain, and he made his way to England. We think he escaped, and a wonderful group of friars had befriended him, helped him learn English well, and this group were very against slavery, so they hid him and helped him. And then he was able to make his way onto a ship to come all the way back, which is incredible. Then after he got here back to the United States, which were not the United States back then, but anyway, he came back to his village and he realized that it had been wiped out by disease for the large part. He had lost his family and his wife and his children and his parents. And this is just the sort of thing that would decimate you and make you angry and not want to help people. But this man was the large part of the reason of our early settlers being able to stay and to plant and to figure out food that worked here on this soil. They had come from England and they had brought a bunch of seeds, but the seeds did not work on this soil. And so he said, okay, we can plant corn, and I can show you about that. And we can plant pumpkins, and we can plant squash and all sorts of things to help sustain you. And there was a lot of journeying that got to that point, but it's through him that he saved a bunch of people. I think that that's safe to say. And then he traveled with this same group on a trade expedition to continue on down the coast. And he sadly caught a disease with a high fever, and he passed away. But what we know about his greatness, and a testament to his greatness, is they mourned him and missed him greatly. And in all of the writings about Squanto, everybody who mentions him, they may not get the spelling the same, they may not, but they say he was a man of great honor. He was trustworthy, and he was a good-hearted person. And I think that it's in his spirit of being an honorable and trustworthy person that was willing to help everybody, regardless of the tragedy he had been through, that we need to focus on in this Thanksgiving. So I'm going to tell you this story, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the story after the fact. So thank you very much, and I look forward to spending this time with you. Yay!
Listen, children, to a story that was written long ago about a kingdom on a mountain trumpets blowing, come the judgment day, on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away. So the people of the valley sent a message up the hill, asking for the buried treasure, tons of gold for which they'd kill. Came an answer from the kingdom, with our brothers we will share all the secrets of our mountain, all the riches buried there. So go ahead and hate your neighbor, go ahead and cheat a friend, do it in the name of heaven, you can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing, come the judgment day, on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away. Now the valley cried with anger, mount your horses, draw your swords. And they killed the mountain people, so they won their just reward. Now they stood beside the treasure, on the mountain dark and red, turned the stone and looked beneath it, peace on earth was all it said. So go ahead and hate your neighbor, go ahead and cheat a friend, do it in the name of heaven, you can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing, come the judgment day, on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away. Thanks, guys.
Hey, St. Luke's and friends of St. Luke's, Liz Beale Kidd here. And Ethan and I have talked about what kind of story we wanted to tell for Children's Chapel right before Thanksgiving. So this is a really interesting story. It's called Squanto's Journey, and it's the story of the first Thanksgiving. And it talks about the story is celebrated by the Wampanoag Native American people. And specifically, Squanto was a part of a chasm of the Wampanoag people, and it just talks a little bit about his life. So, without further ado, here is Squanto's journey. Let's get started. My story is both strange and true. I was born in the year the English call 1590. My family were leaders of the Paxanut people, and I, too, was raised to lead. But in 1614, I was taken to Spain against my will. Now it is 1621, and I'm again in my homeland. My name is Squanto, and I would like to tell you my tale. I look up and watch a heron flying overhead. It goes towards the falls that gave our people their names. We were the Patuxet, the people of the falls. Our cleared fields were not empty of people then, as they were when the English pilgrims landed in the freezing moon of 1620. Only 6 winters have passed, but so many things have changed. I remember that day in 1614. White men had come often to fish in our bay and trade. They had brought us fine things in exchange for beaver and deerskin. This time, when their tall ships with sails like the wings of a giant bird anchored offshore, this time was different. John Smith was one of the English captains. He and his officers, Thomas de Meur, traded with us. I liked the way de Meur shook my hand. Smith had learned much from dealing with other Indians in the summer land of Virginia. He knew we valued honor. The other captain was Thomas Hunt. After Smith left, Hunt landed at Pucknut. He told us he was Smith's friend. "Come to feast on my ship," he said. More than 20 of us went aboard to share food with friends, but Hunt was no friend. He set sail, taking us with him as captives. They were kidnapped. Left behind were our families, our homes, our people. Our lives were no longer our own. So Squanto was captured as a slave, taken to Spain. Soon we were crossing the wide salt waters. The journey was long, but my spirit did not desert me. I remembered I was Penise, a man of courage. I told stories to my people and urged them to stay strong. He took us to Magala in the land of Spain. There we were sold to be slaves, but men who served the Creator lived there. It was they who called themselves brothers, who freed us from our chains. I learned more of their language. I let them teach me about their ways of thanking the great mystery. I told them what I wanted most. I wanted to return home. With the friar's help, I went to England. English ships often sailed towards the sunset. I realized that if I could be of use to the English, they might take me with them. It took much work, but I learned the language well. In March of the year they call 1619, I sailed back to New England at the side of my friend Thomas de Meur, one of John Smith's officers. Our memories of each other were like the taste of good water. He told me that things were not well between my people of the First Light and the English. Englishmen and their ships were now being attacked when they came to shore. Perhaps if I accompanied the English, I could speak with the Indians and they could trade again in peace. My heart felt as if it was soaring on an eagle's wings and the ship cut through the waves, but I also feared what I might find. There were this many people, he said, telling me of great illness in New England brought on by white traders. Now only this many remain. He folded back all but 2 fingers. It proved, as he said, the sickness had come down on Pawtuxet like the blow of a war club. Only a few of my people survived. My wife, my children, my parents, and all those closest to me were gone. I will not say their names now. I will speak them again when my own feet climb the highest mountain and I walk the road of stars to greet them. Together, Thomas de Meur and I did our work. We made friendly contact with the Nemasket and the Poconet. More than once, my words saved the life of my English friend. peace seemed within our reach. But Epinal, the powerful schism of Chappaquake, viewed the English as one might a deadly serpent. Epinal, too, had been taken to England as a slave and brought back to act as a guide. He had escaped and vowed to always fight the white men. The deeds of other Englishmen convinced his people that he was right. In the summer of 1620, as Thomas de Mer and I talked of peace, an English captain invited a party of Indians on board their ship. Then suddenly, the white men shot them down. When we reached the island of Chappaquake, Epinal and his warriors attacked us. Many English were killed. Thomas de Mer was wounded. And with my help, he was able to escape, but I was taken captive and given to the Pocono as a prisoner. Wow. That November, when the Mayflower reached shore, the Pocono watched. They did not come close to the English. If the Pocono had been stronger, they might have attacked the white men, wiped them out, or driven them away. But the Pocono were still weak from the great sickness. Where there had been thousands, now there were hundreds. The strength of our people was so small now that the Narragansett to the south, untouched by the plague themselves, ordered the once proud Pocono and Nemasket to pay them tribute. I spoke to Montserrat, the chasm of the Pocono, as a Pawnees should, with respect and with honor. Befriend the English, I said, make them come to understand and support our people. Montserrat did not listen at first. He watched silently through that winter. Then Somerset came to visit. He was a chasm of the Permaquid people who lived further up the coast. He had done much trading with the English, and he knew some of their language. Let me talk with the songless monarch, he said, and Montserrat, nodding to me as he spoke. Montserrat agreed. The next day, March 16th of 1621, Somerset strode into the English settlement. Welcome, English, he said in their tongue. He showed them the 2 arrows in his hand. One had a flint arrowhead. The other had the arrowhead removed. The arrow symbolized what we offered them, either war or peace. The English placed a coat about his shoulders to warm him. They invited him into one of their houses. They gave him small water, biscuits and butter, pudding and cheese. The food was so good, Somerset said to me later, laughing as he spoke, I decided to spend the night. When he left the next day, he promised to return with a friend who spoke their language well. Seen some biblical themes of hospitality come in. So it was that 5 days later, on the 22nd of March, I walked with Somerset back into my own village. Once Pawtuxet, now it was Plymouth. I looked around me. Though much was changed, I knew that I at last had returned to the land of my home. Perhaps these men can share our land as friends, I told my brother at my side. In the moons that followed, there was much work to do. The polka dot freed me to be a guide and interpreter for the English. Not only did I act as an envoy between the English and our people, I also had many things to teach the white people about survival. They knew little of hunting and almost nothing of planting. It had always been the job of the Patuxent women to take care of the crops, while men, such as myself, hunted. But I'd observed much in the years since my captivity. I had seen in Newfoundland how the English learned from our people how to grow corn. Use the small fish that wash up on our shores in great numbers, I told the English. Bury those fish in the earth, and they will feed the corn. Little fertilizer right there. I showed them how to plant the seeds of corn and beans and squash together in hills. I told them when it was the moon of hoeing. They listened well, and they worked hard. I came to see that these pilgrims could be our friends, and we theirs. Together we might make our home on this land given to us by the Creator of all things. A good harvest was brought in this fall. Some of their English crops have not done well, but the three sisters, the corn, the beans, and the squash, have done well. As I look at the beans growing up the stalks of the corn, I think of how our two people have become entwined. I feel hope for our children in the seasons to come. With our help, the English have learned enough of hunting and fishing to provide the food for a great feast such as this one, a feast for all our people. Now, as we eat together, I give thanks. I've seen more in my life than most men, whether Indian or English. I've seen both death and life come to this land that gives itself to English and Indian alike. I pray that there will be many more such days to give thanks together in the years that follow. Oh, look at this picture. This is an interesting picture because I think the artist went through great lengths to try and show what the food looked like at that time. So this is not the kind of color corn that we're used to. This looks like there's squash and maybe acorn squash and lots of different squashes together. It's very interesting, isn't it? It's not really the green bean casserole that we might do. It's funny how traditions change, right? I am Squanto. I am known to all those who gather here. English, Pocono, Nemusket, even a few of my own surviving Patuxets. I speak to you as a Penese, a man of honor. I will never leave this land. I give thanks for all our people to the Creator of all things. That is a really cool story. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the author and how this story was made in just a little bit. Why don't we hear a little bit more of our wonderful song from Ethan? Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys for being such great listeners during the story and those questions. Now, we have our last song for today called Lean on Me. And we have done this one before, like I said, and this one doesn't have too many emotions, but it's super fun to sing. So I want you to sing it loud and proud. And then there's a part in the song called The Bridge. And in the bridge, it's going to start by saying, "You'll just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. And in that part, I want you to be clapping with me, okay? Ready? So you go, so just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. And then it'll keep going like that. But other than that part, there's not too many emotions, but that just means you got to focus extra more on your singing, okay? Great, guys. Well, let's sing that last song. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we'll know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. So just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, then I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Okay, we covered a lot in that story, and there's even a lot that had to be left out because it was already a really long story. But thank you for staying with me. And I would just like to point out that we saw lots of good Christian themes in this story, but among them was being great neighbors and great hospitality. We saw some really atrocious behavior from people who are betraying each other and warring and not making friends in peace. But peace is really the idea behind Thanksgiving, because not only do you have peace, but you have prosperity, which is why you were able to celebrate with the feast. So hospitality and peace leads to prosperity. This Thanksgiving, it might look a little bit different because we have COVID, but we can do it in different ways. So I want you to tell me if you came up with anything interesting around your Thanksgiving table with just your family. Are you going to have a Thanksgiving Zoom or Skype with some of your relatives that you normally would be sitting around the table with? Are you going to tell them about Squanto and the great lessons that we learned about peace and about hospitality and about being kind and listening to your neighbor? I hope so. I'd love for you to tell me about it. So let's say a prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much that we are able to be together this Sunday. Thank you so much for the life of Squanto and all of the good people that we learned about today and the wonderful lessons that they have taught us. Thank you so much for this story and that we are able to honor the people who worked hard for peace today on Thanksgiving. Help us remember all of our blessings in this day of turkey and pies and corn. and help us remember that your St. Luke's family loves you, God loves you, and I can't wait to see you again. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Thank you. I hope to see you next week.